Free, are we ready to go?
Yes.
All right, welcome everyone. My name is Meg McGrath-Smith. I'm the chair of the Ordinance Committee, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. It is Thursday, May 7th, 2026 at 6:30 or 6:34 p.m. My apologies for running a bit late. We wanted to put out some maps here in chambers. I am joined by my left by Councillor Ann Thalheimer and also other committee members, Mimi Panich and Linda Vacan. And in council chambers, we also have Councillor Devine. Thank you for joining us. And you'll also see online we have Councillor Purcell. And we have a number of folks who are here in chambers, and I'm happy to see everyone return. Thank you so much. Maybe some new folks as well. And then we also have online the chair of the Historical Commission, Chris Gauthier, and our solicitor, Michael Bissonette. We are going to be jumping in today to 3 items prior to taking up the zoning ordinance, just so you know. We're going to start with item 1. And then just to reiterate for the public, the meeting is happening here at Holyoke City Chambers, but also you can see it, of course, on Zoom or Channel 15 where there's interpretation available. And thank you so much for our translator tonight. If I could have a motion to take up item 1.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have item 1 from Panich, ordered that Chapter 2, Section 9 of the Code of Ordinances be amended to provide that all adoptions of ordinances require the affirmative votes of a simple majority of the entire membership of the council for passage, except where otherwise required by our charter or by state law. The current ordinance, which requires a 2/3 vote of councillors present and voting, is inconsistent with both our charter and with council rules. This was tabled on 4/28/26 in order for us to request legal language, which we have in front of us tonight. The legal language which we have in front of us says we will eliminate the entire existing section of 2-9 and substitute the following new section. A, passage of ordinances to be enrolled and ordained, including any amendments thereto, shall require an affirmative vote of a simple majority of the full city council. Okay. And then section 2 is simply, and section 3 is what is almost always in our ordinances. So section 2, all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. And section 3, this ordinance shall take effect upon its passage. I'll open it up for members of the committee to speak in favor or to approve the language or ask any questions they have. Councillor Panich and then Councillor Vacan.
Yes, before I go any further, I want to point out that our city solicitor does have his hand up. I also want to point out that when I wrote this order, I made a mistake, which Councillor Vacan caught, and said that this was, our previous language was councillors present and voting, and in fact it was just councillors present. And I don't think that it makes any particular difference to the order before you tonight. I suspect that Councillor, or the City Solicitor Bissonette, may be about to call out the fact that the legal form did drop the language about except where otherwise required by our charter or by state law, and we may want to add that back in before voting on it. And, you know, since it wouldn't overcome those contradictions anyway, it doesn't make that much of a difference, but I think it's worthwhile getting it right. And having said that, I think the argument for this is fairly obvious, both by internal rule, not unlike the Senate filibuster, but we overcame it in the earlier part of this term. This rule, as it currently stands, requires a supermajority for any change to our ordinances. It has been a considerable hindrance, in my opinion. I suspect that a great deal of the last term, and in fact of the past 15 years, would have gone differently if the council were able to pass anything by a simple majority vote. The problem with consensus, which I gather this was the 2/3 is designed to encourage, is that when you have a serious division of opinion and of philosophy in any body, consensus can be almost impossible, and it prevents both the majority from having its way and experimenting, and it can make it impossible to move quickly when quick action is needed. And if you followed the last term of this council's work and watched many of its meetings, you saw a lot of situations where members of the council would say outright, we need a balance here. This is all about checks and balances within the council. If you, the majority, don't give us this, you're not going to get 9 votes for that. And to the extent that Holyoke would have benefited from being able to take a simple majority, take action, see whether the experiment worked or not, this supermajority requirement has prevented it. And I also think if you take the long view, and if you look at, is our city better off than it was 15, 20 years ago? Do you think this helped? My feeling is it probably didn't. And it is time that we tried majority rule for a while and see whether it helps, if nothing else. So that's the basic pitch. It's the way America has generally done things. Even the filibuster in the Senate didn't used to be this way. This is a rule of the body. It is not in our Constitution. It is not a matter of hard law. It's a matter of the Senate giving itself an excuse not to act a great deal of the time. It doesn't even require 60 votes for passage. It just requires 60 votes to get something in front of the body. So even the filibuster does not do what our ordinances do in terms of handicapping a majority vote. And I just, I know there are strong feelings on both sides, but I urge us to go back to what I am convinced that our founders envisioned. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bacon?
Thank you. So I will be the voice of opposition on this matter. We just changed the rule from 2/3 of those present. Actually, it was 2/3 of the entire body for many years as the practice. So it meant 9 votes to pass serious ordinance changes, general ordinance changes, I should say. That was a rule of standing in our rules that defines how many people that was and how the votes would be taken. There was at a certain point a big debate over how the votes would be counted, which had never occurred until there was a very divisive vote. And then a unique legal opinion was written in that regard. But that was the beginning of the debate to change the voting. It got made much more visible and much more debatable when we were debating the Modernization Act, which some of us to this day, and I've been very public about this, so I'm not saying anything unexpected, say that we are adding $500,000 to a budget where we really needed to hire a qualified treasurer 3 years ago. So that remains a philosophical division, which is supposed to occur in public bodies. We sometimes agree to disagree. In my view, to have the 2/3 vote causes there to be the debate. I think it's important to have the debate when things will be easily passed by a majority. And right now, our mayor has been very publicly happy about the fact that he has a supermajority on the council. So I think it's almost a distinction without a difference at this particular moment in history. Not that that couldn't change in the future, because all things change in the future. But nonetheless, I think it has been a good tool, and I think it was embraced for years, and I don't think it hurt the city. The other big controversy, and it was before I got on the council, was over the public-private deal on the sewer company. And that, again, was a hugely divisive issue, but I think in the long run, the community was better served by having more people have to embrace it at the time than to have a simple majority push it through. So that's just my perspective on it, and we can agree to disagree. But I think there's value to it, and I think the more debate we have in public, when our business is done in public, I think it is to the benefit of the citizens that we represent. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank Councilor Anderson Burgos for joining us in chambers. And I know it was mentioned earlier that Councilor Bissonnette had his hand up. Solicitor Bissonnette, did you want to explain any of the questions that Councilor Panich had raised around the language of the ordinance we have in front of us?
I would never attempt to explain anything to a graduate of the Chicago Law School. Let me make that clear. No, I think she's captured it perfectly. When we were rewriting this, there were sections of subsection B, C, and D covering other matters and the vote quantity needed to pass such matters. And D was going to be, except where required by state law, which is the zoning act, 2/3 required for changing the zoning. But that's why that's not in this edited version. And I would suspect that putting it back in will do us more good than harm. So I would suspect that could be a friendly amendment. Thanks very much, Councilor.
Thank you. Is the thought at this moment that we would amend it on the floor, so to speak, here and move it forward? Or is the goal that we would ask for the updated language and then table to take up at the next meeting?
Well, I would certainly ask that it be treated as a friendly amendment, amend on the floor, and take a vote and send it to the full council. It's a very simple addition.
Do we have draft language that we can name into the record at this point?
All right. How about we drop a comma after council in the draft we have?
Which section?
A. And add, except where otherwise required by state law or by any contrary provision of our charter.
One more time? Can you repeat one more time?
Okay, possibly. Except where otherwise required by state law or by any contrary provision of our charter.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I see you adding that on the screen there.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes, I see Councilor Bacon and I see Councilor Devine.
So I don't want to get too picky on this, but I would prefer that it just said what it originally said, which was except where otherwise required by our charter or by state law. I don't want to get into a debate about whether the charter says something or doesn't say something. We're debating that in charter and rules right now relative to this very matter. So to me, I'd make a friendly amendment that we just say by our charter or by state law rather than further qualifying it.
Councilor Panich, do you have any response? This was originally your draft language, so probably makes the most sense for you to respond.
It was originally my draft language, but I can't do this by ear. I need to see it.
It's right here.
Oh, great, thank you.
It starts here.
Yeah, that's fine with me, thank you. Does the same thing.
It's right
Wait.
on the order.
Okay, thank you. Let me read it in one more time. Jeffrey, what Councilor Bacon is suggesting is that we go back to the original language in the law, or in the order. Where it says, except where otherwise required by our charter or by state law. Just simplifies the language a bit. So after required by, just put our charter or state law.
Sorry, my Zoom was glitching.
Oh, that's all right. Just so it says required by our charter or state law. Councilor Devine?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I agree with Councilor Panich. A lot of times in the past, with some of the wording, 2/3 vote, simple majority, I would have to say, how many do we need? is it 9, is it 8, is it 7? So I think this certainly helps, and it's certainly not for major things, such as zoning and stuff like that. So I tend to agree that this simplifies it a little, at least for people like me that needed to know exactly what we needed to get for votes. So appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, do you have a motion?
Motion that we amend and recommend to the city or the full council that the amended order pass.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do a roll call vote? I'm so used to us being hybrid. I don't think we do.
Is he on Zoom or?
No, I don't think he is. No, okay. Oh, that's right.
So
Okay.
we am a no vote
Yeah.
on that.
Yes, okay. So we have 3-1 with 4 present. And Israel Rivera absent. Okay.
Motion to take up item 2.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 2 from Councilor Bacon, order that the city ordinance be amended to combine the Historical Commission and the local District Commission into one commission as voted by both commissions. Yes, we have Chris Gothier online. Would you mind giving us, from your perspective, a bit of a history of the origination of this order and the request from these two commissions to be combined?
Sure. It was actually attempted several years ago to combine both commissions, but a lot of the wording, verbiage was just not correct. We have been working with Shannon Walsh on our historic design and standards guidelines, and it was actually brought to our attention that many of the communities today are combining commissions just to streamline operations for the good of the city. And most importantly, quorum. I have not had quorum in maybe 5 months, and I believe the Historic District has had issues as well with quorum.
Thank you. And this was positively voted out of both commissions that this was...
Both commissions, yes.
Thank you. I also spoke with Shannon Walsh. She is someone who is, an expert, works for Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. And when I spoke with her about the work that she had done, we have an entire report from her, from Pioneer Valley Planning Commission that was distributed to the committee ahead of time to review, that really walks through the process of doing this and effectively the language of the order says that we're going to combine the two, but the way that you actually combine them is that, in effect, you disband one commission and then reform the other with full membership. So what that means is that because the Historical Commission was created under a very set state statute, and we adopted that state statute, that's how we created our Historical Commission. In order to combine the two, what we will effectively do is disband our Historical Commission and instead reform and ordinance our local District Commission with the responsibilities of the local Historic District and the Historical Commission as it currently stands. Because there's no way to change the Historical Commission as it's currently set up through state statute, it has its own process, it has its own rules. And there's a number of communities, when I spoke to her, that have been looking at the same thing, right? How do we do this? We have these two groups that are doing very similar work, and it seems like a duplication of effort, and it's also a lot to ask our volunteers, often who are serving on both boards, instead of it being the same board, and struggling with quorum in both places. So the recommendation in front of us and this information in our packet gives us the roadmap for how to do it. Means that our next step would be to consider what we want the responsibilities of that local historic district to be. We can look at the ordinance of our current historical commission we can look at the current state statute. We can also look at how the local historic district was set up in ordinance, and then consider how we want to shift the responsibilities over. One of the things that I want to call your attention to in this packet is we have some examples of how this has been done in nearby communities in the state. So we do have some examples here to consider. I think this is sort of an initial conversation, and then a lot of legwork will have to be done in between meetings to really consider what that language looks like with our city solicitor. But I think starting to name what we're looking for now is important. Counselor Bacon?
Thank you. As the maker of the order, I want to compliment the commissions first for being proactive on this and coming forth with both commissions having voted to move forward with this. We also have been provided with the 24-page document that is very thorough. And per my review and discussions, it is indicated that the logical way to proceed is to combine them and move them into the district commission under the law. So what I would like to do tonight, I do not believe that the committee has to do a lot of legwork. I believe the commissions and the noted folks who have spent many hours on this have done that. And so what I would like to do is read into the record in somewhat brief format, the key points, and then ask our legal department to come back to us with a legal form that we can review and hopefully move forward.
Yep.
This has been something in the works for years. I see no reason to overly belabor it in committee. So my motion will be that
Do you want to name which page you're reading from?
I am looking at, it's marked with a 2 at the top. It is the first page of the packet attached to the order.
Thank you.
So the pertinent parts are that if commissions were to be combined under Chapter 40C, Section 14, the city could assign the responsibilities and duties of its Charter 40, Section 8D Historical Commission to the Historic District Commission as part of the amendment. And then it documents the Holyoke Article 3 Historic District Ordinance. And then it also notes that we would need to amend the demolition delay ordinance because it relates to the other commission.
Yep.
In a scenario where the historical commission responsibilities were assigned to the district commission, the part that has to be sorted out is how the historical commission would be disestablished. But I think that is less problematic than moving forward and getting the combined commission activated. That's a technical legal matter that I'm sure could be sorted out pretty readily. It notes that we are on record that we had accepted the Chapter 40, Section 8D back in 1972, and that will be a process that will need to be figured out. But once the combined commission is formally established, the district commission and its members would take on the duties of the historical commission. And district commissions established under Mass General Laws, Chapter 40C, have requirements regarding membership and nominations that are more specific than that of the historical commission. So it kind of makes it easy that you go that way because we already have that specificity in our documents. And so future appointments to the combined commission would need to follow the procedures required by Chapter 40C, Section 4, and Article 2, Historic District Ordinance. And then it goes on to say that new nominations and the such would have to follow that. So my idea is that we refer this section of the document over to our legal department along with the entire document and the sample ordinances, because they've already been somewhat involved with the Planning Commission and a bunch of other people in looking at this, and then ask them to what might be a reasonable timeline, if we can ask Attorney Bissonnette to get it back to committee. This looked very well done to me in the past, seemed clear and embraced by the group, so I think that would be my motion.
Do I have a second?
Second, but I also, if nobody else is in queue first, I
We'll
would
be
like,
moving to discussion after we
Okay.
vote on it.
It's
So
just-
all those in favor? Aye. Under discussion, Counselor Penich?
yeah, I just wanted to get the chair's sense of the issues that were found when you were reviewing this, because I don't want to skip over anything important. I also agree with Councilor Bacon that it would be great to get this going from a legal point of view. But if you've already ID'd issues, it would be good to know what we should think about first.
Mr.
Main issues
Gothier?
that were put forth to
Oh,
me
sorry.
before I filed the order were quorum and duties that didn't seem to make sense to have separate.
Yeah.
That's how it was put forth to me before I filed it, but
Yeah.
there may be certainly other people that want to speak to it.
Yeah.
Mr. Gauthier, do you want to speak to any other issues?
As Linda had stated, the biggest issue right now is quorum. I'm actually on the two boards, and there is actually, I think, one other that is doing two boards just to make quorum. Our duties as a historical commission, we have many duties, but they are in alignment with the local district, and I think it's just to consolidate efforts. Again, so many people are on different boards. It would just be nice to have one-stop shopping.
Mr. Gauthier, one thing that I am wondering about for this, because it's an opportunity for
Yes.
us to perhaps address some of the lack of clarity in terms of the
Okay.
duties and roles concerning the building department and preservation restrictions, for example, or
Yes.
the role of CPA in what the historical commission is doing. I could imagine it could be a place to make it clear.
Yes, thank you, yes. That is still talks with CPA with the preservation restrictions, and we are still in legal as well with trying to find an alternative to make this happen.
Thank you. It's not a public hearing, but did you? Oh, did you want to introduce yourself? We didn't know who you were. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. Yeah, come up to the mic. Just make sure the mic is on and just name your name for the record.
On the side.
Sorry, I'm the other half of this equation. My name is Catherine Hopkinson, and I am the chair of the local historic district commission.
Welcome.
Sorry, I would have gone on Zoom like Chris, but I was in the area, so I figured I might as well just come in.
Yes, please.
So I can just speak to what he has already spoken to, which is we're having a lot of issues making quorum. There's a lot of overlap in our duties, and actually some people who contact me are actually looking for him. As far as like the duties of the local historic district commission, it's mostly handling the applications submitted by the residents of Fairfield Ave. So there are periods in like the winter when they can't do any work, where we just don't have any business. I mean, it hasn't been that so lately, just because like confluence of events, but between having sort of these gaps where we're not handling anything and issues meeting quorum, it really does make sense that, you know, we're combining the two commissions.
Thank you. Yes, and I know when I talked to Shannon Walsh, one of her points was that Springfield, for example, would have difficulty in many ways because they have so many local historic districts versus we have one. So it's more possible to combine the two and have one group own all of it collectively. All right, we have a motion on the table for us to ask our solicitor to draft legal language for us to look at. And it's been seconded. Is there any other further discussion before we move to a vote? Yes, Councilor Bacon?
I just have one question through you to Attorney Bissonette as to if this passes through committee, what a reasonable timeline might be.
Good question. And I know that we've, we're down one staffer in the legal department because Ms. Mantelewski left. So Solicitor Bissonette, would you mind weighing in a little bit on a sense of timeline for what seems reasonable to you?
To get it back to the committee,
For example, we have a meeting June 11th. Would it be possible for us to hear back from you with legal language by then?
let's make that the date, June 11th. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, motion to take up.
Take up item 3.
Thank you.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
McGrath-Smith ordered that council separate the positions of park superintendent and city forester and make necessary changes in ordinance in order to do so. Our combined position is not currently supported by ordinance. And I did want to name that we are waiting for legal language on this specifically, and I don't see any in our packet, unless I'm mistaken. Does anyone else see legal language? I know originally we had already looked at legal language for the forester, but we were still waiting on language for park superintendent.
I thought there was a union issue.
At this point, it's currently moving forward. They're waiting for us to make the changes that we need to make in order to allow it. And they're waiting for us because budget season is starting and the goal, thank you so much for joining us. And the goal is very much to be able to separate them heading into this budget cycle, which is now.
I
So,
don't see anything.
Solicitor Bissonnette, do you want to weigh in on the language that we're waiting for?
As you said, I think you have the change to the forester, which will now be appointed by the Board of Public Works, reporting directly to the Director of DPW.
Yes.
There is not a current ordinance that I could find, and I did have some confusion because there is, in the charter actually, a Director of Outdoor Work,
Yes.
and that's a created position, but this position of Parks Super doesn't seem to exist as an ordinance. So that's my concern. We can certainly create one. And I understand it is currently just a staff position appointed by the board reporting to the director. So I think separating it is a function of hiring. I understand the union has now agreed to sign off on this. So if you want to approve the ordinance change as to the forester, that will set that up as an independent appointment and will necessarily trigger hiring a park superintendent because that side of that job will now be unfilled.
Councilor Bacon?
So if I'm hearing you correctly, we don't need an ordinance for the parks part.
I don't believe so because the position is already created.
Okay, and then the second thing is, do we have the language to move it under the DPW director? Do we have to do that by ordinance? So
We looked at language in the past, but we don't have it in front of us tonight.
But we do have it?
We do, yes, we looked at it. It was probably 2 months ago. Solicitor Bissonnette, is it possible for us to have the legal language for this by the May 26th meeting?
Oh, certainly. For the forester?
For the forester, yes, but also just more clarity on if we should have an ordinance defining the scope of work and the authority for the park superintendent?
I don't think we need
Okay.
it.
Okay,
It's a line job.
I'll make a
Yeah,
motion
we
that
could do a draft for that, sure.
Thank you. I'll make a motion that we table this until May 26th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion to take up item 4
And open the public hearing.
and open the public hearing.
So moved. I'm sorry, motion, second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, public hearing. This was filed in February by Ms. Panich, ordered that the city council amend the zoning ordinance as proposed by the planning board by a vote of February 10th, 2026, and fully described in the attached package. These are for the most part technical amendments designed to rationalize and streamline processes for special permits under the zoning ordinance, to clarify and add definitions where necessary, and simplify and rationalize our zoning districts. Full package includes zoning ordinance revisions, orders 1 through 41. And do we want to take up at the same time as a package item 5? It's additional communication from the planning department and constituents.
So I'll make a motion to take up item 5 in the public hearing for the purpose of receiving the information.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. What I would like to do today, we spent a lot of time in the last meeting talking about our RA1 issue and understanding the proposal and the effects that it might have or not have. What I would love to do today is spend more time in understanding the business zone proposal and also the special permits. I don't know if you want to start, Councilor Panich, and give an overview before we open it up to the public.
Sure, thank you. And there are a couple of points that I'd like to make in general, and you'll have heard some of them before, but I want to reiterate them, particularly in light of some of the communications that we have received. We have in front of us tonight a letter from a constituent asking that this whole process be postponed. And we have a petition asking for a postponement. The fact is that our process here is already going to be, I think, in the common view, postponed, because the legislative process around zoning is frequently not as complicated as this is. These are, as people have noted, sweeping changes throughout the city, even though most of them are very small. But this is the part of the process that is designed for everybody who has any concern to be heard by both bodies. There have been complaints about how in the process of developing the master plan and looking at these, not every person with property that might be affected was consulted. There were opportunities, certainly, but not everybody was reached out to individually. And that is the comp plan process. But the zoning process is intended for everybody who has any property affected by this, anyone who has any public concerns that they want to share, to come in and let us know about it. And this hearing will stay open until that is done. The planning board has sometimes kept hearings open for a year because it was important, because people had to do research in between sessions of the public hearing, because life happens. I can promise that these hearings will not be closed until everybody has had a chance to have their input considered, unless something else happens to derail the whole thing. But already, one of the things about the business zones, and I'm sure everybody here wants to hear any remarks anyone wants to make about the business zones, but commentary already has been provided as a start, both to us and to the planning board. And revisions will be made on the basis of that commentary. So part of what we're looking at in the original package is probably already obsolete because it's been taken in, people have thought about it. Things will change. And for that reason, I think that what we're going to do from here tonight is continue this hearing out for a few months so that we have the benefit of both your advice and the planning board's advice. They too will be holding hearings. And I wanted to lay that down as background for everyone here. The other thing that I wanted to mention has to do with the special permits, which I know a great many people are concerned about. And the fact is that there may have been a certain amount of inadvertent confusion resulting just from the form in which these are presented. By the nature of the thing, the list only has the special permits that we're planning to or suggesting be changed. There is no list of the ones that we were hoping to leave with the city council. So the impression may have been created unintentionally that all of the special permits currently dealt with by the city council were proposed to go to the planning board. This is not the case. The effort was to attempt to transfer the ones that are primarily technical in nature, where it's like how many parking spaces, how big is that garage you're planning to do, what do the stormwater plans look like, that sort of thing, handed over to the specialists while leaving the important things that have a political impact, everything from marijuana to cultivation or to potential quarrying operations with the city council, because those obviously have the kind of impact on the community that a technical board should not be deciding. So, I did want to call people's attention to that and to the fact that where the planning board suggested that perhaps we didn't need a special permit at all. If the community feels differently, we need to hear that, because one of the first things I heard when this was published was, wait, why are you taking away the special permit for assisted living facilities? We feel that we need to get to review those, or have our political representatives review those. And I know that that is being taken into consideration, because the community obviously felt strongly about it and we were getting commentary about it. So I just wanted to set that stage before I turned this back over and asked for our chair to either ask other councilors for questions or ask the public for questions or suggestions.
Thank you, Councilor Penich. Councilor Bacon?
Thank you. I just want to be sure as we're going through this tonight that we refer to whatever the order number is, so that we can all be on the same page, and for people who have the documents, we'll be able to refer back to what it was. And I would also like to make sure that we officially enter into the record the statement number 4 that we received tonight, and the second number 4, which is stamped May 5th, I think that's a 5, or 6th, with over 100 signatures relative to the request for postponement, that be entered into the official record of the public hearing. And I would also like to renew the request, because I do not see the minutes from the planning board for the last 2 years that were requested at the first public hearing. And I would also like to request, because we were informed in the first letter that the final master plan update should be completed in 5 to 6 weeks. So now I think we're 4 weeks past that. So if we could be looking forward to an update. I take a lot of serious consideration relative to this letter that wants to see from the citizens the plan first. These zoning changes are supposed to be supporting a plan. And so, we have the discussion oftentimes about the cart before the horse. And I think there's a very strong feeling about that relative to this. So hopefully, if we're going to extend out the public hearing for a while, we will have the benefit of that before the next public hearing. And I hope the communication will come out well before it, so that people have a chance to look at it. It's very hard if you get a 50-page document 2 days before a public hearing, So that is my hope, and I just want to make sure these things are in the record. Thank you.
Agreed. Yes, and I think, for anyone who's concerned that we're getting this before we're getting the comprehensive plan, I don't think there's a single counselor that doesn't feel that way. I think very much so. My goal tonight, the first hearing I knew we would never get beyond talking about the RA1 concern, and I really wanted to make sure there was space to go through more of the business zones and the special permits. But after this meeting tonight, the goal will be to continue it to a date in August. That way there's enough time for the planning board to finish their hearing process. They've received a lot of information already in terms of hearing from the public around, we're not sure this is the right zone for this area. Actually, we think this would impact our property. Please don't change it to business general. Please keep it business limited. I think they've already heard a lot of that feedback. And so the process from here will be, we'll be continuing it to August, and then the planning board will continue their process, and then they will come up with a recommendation to us in writing that will say effectively, yes, this was our proposal, but now that we've really heard from the public, here's our amended proposal. Here's what we're really recommending now that we've gotten public input. We want to postpone it to the end of the summer to give them enough time to finish that process, and then we'll be able to take their recommendation in, reopen the public hearing on our end, and then continue the conversation with the updated recommendation. Yes, Councilor Devine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The petition that Councilor Bacon talked about, was that sent to the city clerk
Yes.
to be checked off and everything? And would you mind reading it?
Oh, sure.
Just for the record, if you don't mind? Thank
Yes.
you.
Not at all.
Councilor
I should have
Bacon,
done that in the first place.
do you also want to read the
Since
letter?
I asked it to be added, pardon?
Do you also want to read the letter into the record that you mentioned?
That's what I am going to.
Thank you.
Yeah. So first I'll read the letter that is part of the petition. Okay? And thank you for asking. Dear members of the Ordinance Committee and Planning Board, we respectfully urge you to move for indefinite postponement of the 47 proposed zoning changes, and I'm a little blocked out here, under consideration, particularly in light of the public hearing held on April 14, 2026. We request that any ordinance changes not be advanced until a well-vetted comprehensive plan is adopted and any future proposals are clearly aligned with that plan. If I misread a couple words, I'm a little blocked out with a stamp here. We are asking the city to take a more deliberate and transparent path forward. This should begin with the completion and adoption of a clear, well-vetted, comprehensive plan before any zoning changes of this scale are brought forward again. Any future amendments must be grounded in and aligned with that plan. This process should also include strengthened public engagement, including neighborhood-level discussions early and throughout, allowing for meaningful dialogue and input. The resulting plan should clearly reflect documented public feedback. The scale and pace of these proposed changes raise serious concerns. 47 amendments introduced at once are difficult for both residents and councilors to reasonably evaluate. This volume creates information overload rather than informed participation. It has become clear that many residents and even members of City Council only became fully aware of the scope and implications of these changes at the hearing stage. This reflects a breakdown in communication and engagement earlier in the process. In addition, the materials provided have not been accessible in a practical sense. Zoning maps and supporting documents must be visually clear, easy to interpret, and available well in advance. When residents cannot understand what is being proposed, meaningful participation is not possible. The current approach has led to confusion, frustration, and a growing lack of public trust. We are not asking to stop progress. We're asking for a process that allows residents to understand it, participate in shaping it, and see their neighborhoods reflected in the vision before decisions of this magnitude move forward. And it is signed by approximately 112 residents throughout the city. The other letter is dated May 7th. Hello, my name is Angelina Rivers. I'm a lifelong resident of Holyoke, living at 177 Locust Street. I'm here tonight because these 47 zoning changes need to be put on hold, just until people actually understand what is going on and the city has a real plan that makes sense. This whole thing moved too fast. Most people did not even know about it. The info was not clear, and honestly, people in Holyoke are already dealing with enough. We have violence, shootings, break-ins, people scared to walk outside at night. When people already feel unsafe, dropping 47 zoning changes on them all at once just makes everything feel more shaky. Zoning and safety go together. Where buildings go, how streets are lit, what gets allowed in certain areas. All that affects crime, noise, traffic, and how stable a neighborhood feels. If we want Holyoke to be safer, we cannot rush big changes without the community being part of it. A lot of residents signed that letter asking for postponement. No big group behind it, no money, no politics, just regular people talking to each other. If we had more time, there would have been even more signatures. People want to be involved, but they need clear info and time to understand what is being proposed. This is not about stopping progress, it is about doing it right. It is about making sure zoning lines up with the safety goals the city keeps talking about. It is about making sure people do not feel pushed out or ignored. And it is about rebuilding trust, because right now a lot of people feel like City Hall is not listening. Postponing this is the responsible thing. Slow it down, talk to the neighborhoods, deal with the safety issues we already have. Then move forward with a plan everyone can see and understand. Thank you.
Madam Chair, real quick, I just want to make sure for the record.
Yes,
The
Councilor
name is
Anderson-Burgos.
Angelina Rivera, not Angelina Rivers.
Rivera. Yes.
Thank you. And thank you, Councilor Bacon, for reading all that into the record. I appreciate that. Okay, I wanted to move into Order 3, and it was one question that I had. So, for example, and for anyone in the public who is also trying to follow this along, just to understand any individual order takes a lot of looking at multiple documents. So, Order 3 is a proposed zone change to look at the residential office and business limited and turn to business general. And it says the proposed zone change will change all parcels zoned residential office, RO, and limited business, BL, to general business, BG, taking all the allowed uses of each and consolidating them into one. Updates to the zoning map to reflect these changes and all references to RO and BL throughout the zoning ordinance will be removed. This change was proposed as there is similarity in the uses found in the table of principal uses and with the dimensions. Dimensional controls will be reviewed during the public hearing process. So for members of the public who are sort of walking through what does it mean to understand this order, effectively, I had to pull up the table of dimensional regulations and compare those. And so, for example, it says that the difference between business limited and business general is, it says minimum area per dwelling unit is going to be the same as the nearest residential district, and then that doesn't change. The frontage doesn't change, it's still 75 feet. The depth doesn't change, it's still 100 feet. The front yard lots, could be a little different. The setbacks move from 30 to 20 feet, and rear yard from 30 to 25, and side yard from 15 to 10 on both sides, so 20 feet in total, 10 on each side. And then the max stories is still 2. The max height goes up a little bit from 26 feet to 35 feet. And then the max building cover on the property is the same from 35 to 35. So there's looking at that. And then there's looking at the table of principal uses. And the table of principal uses tracks that in most areas it's exactly the same, except for a few. So underneath business, general, an animal clinic or kennel is possible. A funeral home is possible. A motel is possible. An indoor commercial recreation business. I'm not sure exactly what that might mean, if you might want to give an example of that.
Yeah, indoor commercial recreation is anything from, say, an indoor volleyball court would be indoor commercial recreation.
Okay.
I think like pinball machines, arcades, what have you, unless they're called out separately, which I think they are in one spot. But it's a general catch-all for anything that you might play indoors.
Okay. And then you have what's named BESS or BESS.
Battery and energy storage system.
Okay, so those are the small battery.
Yeah, those are the small battery
facilities that we
systems.
talked about. So those then become possible changes to that area. All of the other principal uses stay the same.
Yeah.
So in my process, as I'm going through this, this is the process that I'm going through of just being able to go through multiple documents and then explore what would this mean to this area, and then looking at the maps. And we do have these maps that are here, and we have a set of maps out there, and then also for councilors and chambers, we have these 2 sets. If there's anything that you want to look at any point, feel free to get up and look at them. What I'd like to do at this point is to open up for any other councilors who want to speak, and then open up to members of the public. We have 7 people who've signed up, and others can, of course, join that list. You want to say anything
From
to?
the public first,
Sure.
before we speak anymore.
Fair.
Sure.
Okay. I have Jessica Montagna. And please just state your name and and your ward.
Nope.
There we
There we
go.
go. I'm going to move this chair.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I am one of the drafters of the letter that was written in. Well, first of all, for the record, I'm wondering if we can find out how many folks are online right now. If there is a number.
Sure. Let me look.
Because we have about 10, 15 people behind me.
It looks like we have 9 online.
Great.
And that includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, sorry. Yep.
So I think I'm hearing your response to this letter that had 112 letters of support, or signatures of support. I think the main concern is that we would really like this to be stopped because the comprehensive plan has not been created, finished. And I want to repeat the sage words of former Councilor Norris here, that 47 zoning changes at once is like trying to drink from a fire hydrant. So keeping this open, that's great. I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done on the community level outside of these chambers. We need to be able to speak, touch, talk, not be in front of a microphone, not have to prepare these things, and go out into the community. And I'm hoping that does happen. Doesn't seem like it's going to. So now I'm going to say my prepared speech. Well, I'm just going to, how did we even get here? I get it. I understand. This is just ridiculously frustrating. How did we even get here? It's too much too soon. So, as many of you have already seen, there was a letter submitted urging this committee to move for indefinite postponement of the 47 zoning changes. The letter was signed by more than 100 residents. Many of those residents are here tonight, both in person and on Zoom. And I encourage other folks to speak out and ask questions as well. I also want to emphasize that these signatures were collected only by a handful of people doing grassroots outreach on the ground, talking to neighbors and being out in the community, which should have happened before and didn't. This wasn't heavily promoted online. There was no large organization behind it. There was limited time and resources available. Most of us are working people. And I can only walk my dog so much. She's 12 years old. He doesn't like to walk a lot. I believe that if there had been a broader awareness and more time, there would have been greater public participation in support of this letter. It feels like what's going to happen is you guys are going to try and tire us out, and that doesn't feel good. Instead of actually informing us, you're going to drag this out in hopes that we forget about it. And I want to encourage folks that we need to keep putting pressure on in this way. Until we're heard. We're saying we don't want this. We're saying we're confused and we're angry and we're upset. And it's not okay to change our city with the excuse of administrative whatever. It's confusing. People don't know about it. The letter that Councilor Vacan read into record, I'm just going to stress, thank you for reading it. A couple of things that I'm going to stress is the process should include strengthened public engagement, including neighborhood level discussions early and throughout. This should have already happened. We should not be here right now. This should have come out of the comprehensive plan. Nowhere. And also, last time we were here, I asked for show us where this came out of the comprehensive plan. Show us where one resident was concerned about zoning. So this would allow for meaningful dialogue and input. The resulting plan should clearly reflect documented public feedback. The scale is too fast. It's too fast, too much, too soon. It creates information overload. I'm glad you guys have maps here. Mostly people don't understand the mapping. This could be posted on poster board and held up around the room. This could have been done outside in a park. This could have been done in a community center, at the library, at the senior center, where we can put sticky notes on it and ask questions. It's called a charrette. It's where we all engage. None of this has happened. And that's why people are confused and angry and upset. And then we feel demonized for speaking up. So, when we don't understand what's being proposed, meaningful participation is not possible. And this has led to confusion, frustration, and growing lack of public trust. There's a lot of lack of public trust going on. All of my neighbors I've talked to, all of the folks that I've talked to who signed that letter are really, really, really angry with you all for having this get this far. really, really, really angry for having to get this far. So I also want to remind folks that at the last hearing, there was another letter supported by more than 80 folks, and that we only had a week and a half or so to get that together, and it was asking for transparency around the city's outreach and engagement efforts. What were those? Where is that? Who did it? Who came? How many people were there? Where did you advertise it? Where were they held? So it raises an important question also. I want to, if this public hearing is really important to get our concerns captured and really get our public comment and community involvement, why were you not heavily promoting this? Why wasn't this like the main thing that you all talked about online, getting people to come down here? Why do I have to post reminders to get folks down here? That shouldn't be my job. So I want to close with this. Many of you were elected on commitments to help stabilize the city, balance the budget, reduce crime, and preserve Holyoke's natural resources. Yet tonight, we're being asked to move forward with sweeping zone changes while many residents still feel unheard, confused, and disconnected from the process. The draft comprehensive plan speaks about Holyoke being a welcoming and safe city, but residents are still dealing with gun violence, crime, instability, and quality of life issues that are pushing people to leave neighborhoods they've invested in for years. I gotta tell you, really been thinking about not living here anymore, and I love living here, and I've lived here for 20 years. I've raised my kid here, but it does feel really crappy to not feel heard and appreciated and understood and being surprised by all these zoning changes. People are selling their homes because they feel their concerns are not being addressed, particularly residents living near Wyckoff Country Club. They continue to raise concerns about excessive noise and impacts to their quality of life. These are real issues affecting real people. I don't think many of us care about what zone we're in. People are getting shot, people are getting killed, people are losing their jobs, people are facing food insecurities. There are so many problems in the city of Holyoke. Why are we talking about zoning? Why are you trying to push this down our throats? So the city needs to address these problems first. This is why we're asking to stop the process entirely. We want to hold the planning board accountable for pushing this through. This was not our idea. None of us are affected by any of this. And I'm angry. And I'm a fiery New Englander Italian American. So here we are. I don't want to take up too much more time, but you need to address those problems while building a stronger and more trusted foundation for future planning before zoning changes come in. If you're not prepared to indefinitely to bring this to city council and say no thank you, that's what we're asking, indefinite postponement, we want you to bring it to the city council and say please stop. We need to do more research. Our community is asking us to inform them in a better way. The planning board should never have done this in the first place. At minimum, keep this public hearing open so residents have more time to organize, ask questions, and participate in a meaningful way. And the city can provide real information that is accessible to everybody. Thank you so much. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you. The next speaker is Angelina Rivera. Ward 4.
Hello, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
I didn't know you were going to read that into record, so I had to write something different real quick, so I appreciate that, Councilor Raccoon.
Sorry about that.
So, again, my name is Angelina Rivera. I am 54 years old, and I am a lifelong resident here of Holyoke. I'm a little emotional right now from what Jessica said because I don't feel like living here anymore either, and I just came back 4 years ago. and just a lot of things. But I appreciate you guys reading the letter into record. I really do. I just want to personally emphasize why I believe the zoning changes should be postponed. A lot of residents feel the process moved too quickly. I myself felt it moved too quickly. I myself just found out about this a week and a half, 2 weeks ago when I posted a video and it was brought to my attention. I had no clue about it. Neither did my 75-year-old aunt who owns a home here and is now not knowing what's going to happen if she has to sell her home, move into a nursing home. And 75 years old, she's not ready for change. I'm not ready for that change with her. She's scared. People are not being informed in enough time, with enough notice, and a lot of people don't understand the zoning changes. And I'll take accountability for the people who don't show up and say, if you don't understand, it's because you don't show up. Show up, watch the Zooms, come to the meetings. But people in Holyoke, like I said, they're already worried about safety and stability in their neighborhoods. Jessica mentioned that as well. And when you introduce 47 zoning changes all at once without enough community discussion, it creates confusion and distrust. And it breaks my heart that the residents here in Holyoke do not trust City Hall or anybody who works in City Hall. I grew up here and spent a lot of time in City Hall learning about the government and politics and the difference between right and wrong. So I'm not asking you to stop doing what you're doing, but I am asking to postpone it and make sure that every resident understands what this zone change is about, what it's going to do, how it will benefit us, if it will even benefit us. And if you need help, I'm here. I have nothing better to do. So that's all I had to say. So thank you very much for listening to me today.
Thank you. Jordana O'Connell.
Hi, good evening. My name's Jordana O'Connell. I'm from Ward 3. Thank you for having this meeting and for allowing for public input. I'm going to read a statement here. Holyoke was required to hold public listening sessions and use specialized outreach to gather input to update its comprehensive plan. I attended one of these comprehensive public meetings, and at absolutely no point were these proposed zoning updates mentioned or discussed until this letter came out, and suddenly now we're asking for input. That feels very unfair for residents. You ask for community input, and it's not there. There's a clear lack of transparency and public awareness, as many residents, as you know, were unaware of these changes, the scope of these 47 changes. This process feels rushed and not fully vetted with the community. So here I am, speaking up to voice my concern, as well as many of the other residents here. These changes are not about modernization. It's a structural shift in how decisions are going to be made in Holyoke. These changes move authority away from elected officials and limit meaningful public input, concentrating power in an appointed board, the planning board. Zoning shapes our neighborhoods, and decisions of this magnitude should not be streamlined at the expense or transparency or of our community voice. It feels like an effort to speed up development, and unfortunately at the cost of the residents of Holyoke, prioritizing pro-development over pro-neighborhood. While growth matters and business is important to Holyoke, but it should not come at the expense of transparency, accountability, and the voice of the people who actually live here. So I would like to formally request that you move for an indefinite postponement rather than rush forward these changes until the public has a better understanding of what is going on and there is a formal comprehensive plan established. Thank you.
Thank you. Betty?
Hi, my name is Betty Dano, and I live in Ward 6. And I would like to say, who are these zoning changes going to benefit? The city, the residents? Quite frankly, we don't know, because we don't have any information about each and every change that's on the list. Some may be only clarification of current regulations, but others may be to our benefit or affect our taxes or limit the use of our property that we had previously enjoyed. Once again, we just don't know. We all know that this request, I put request/demand, from the taxpayers is making it harder for the planning board, but that's their job. You have an obligation to be transparent with the taxpayers when in fact a change will or may affect them. Please postpone voting on zoning changes and give the taxpayers and other residents a comprehensive accounting of the changes and an opportunity to discuss how we will be impacted. And this is one final note. Were the zoning issues precipitated by a request for a sports complex in the vicinity of Whiting Farms Road? There's an article from the Springfield Republican, I'm sorry, I don't have a date, but it was entitled, "Residents Press City Leaders to Save Urban Forest from Development," and it especially has to do with the sports complex. And Mike Sullivan said in this article that the property, speaking about the property where the sports complex is expected to be built or wanted to be built, the disposition of the property is before the state land court and would require a public process, including a zoning change. So that kind of made me think that this is the reason. We're not going to sit back and spin the wheel of fate to see what we get. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I respond to that?
I think the goal is to get through the last three and then open it up.
But make sure Mimi gets a chance to talk, because I think she and I are going to say the same thing, because that is not the same.
Beth Brokel?
There's a simple answer.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm Beth Brogel. I'm from Ward 7. I was at the last meeting, and for this meeting, I requested that we have maps because no one has been able to see any map. And so thank you for getting the maps. But I have bad news for you. We still can't read these maps. So if the planning board made these maps, my suggestion would be that they make them more legible so that the older folks can see them, and that they be posted throughout the city. And I agree with everybody here that this process was cart before the horse. I do understand that a lot of these zoning changes are smaller things that are meant to make life a little easier here, not scarier here, but the process has not been easy. And as far as, I believe there are 9 items here that change votes from the city council to the planning board. I think you guys can handle it. None of this is rocket science. We're talking about special permits for, what did I write no next to? Shopping center districts, repair garages, used car lots, like we need another one of those here. I don't think any vote at all should be moved to the planning board. Not one, especially if this is the kind of work they're doing. We just got this. This has been going on, talking now for 6 weeks. We still can't read it. So I think that we can do better here. And I think that people are angry. People are not trusting right now. Especially you're changing the number of votes you need to pass things, and now you want to change a lot of little things that affect people. I would ask you to regroup, get the plan in place, and communicate better with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Helen Norris? Do you want help with the microphone? We could just bring the microphone to her.
Have her sit, please.
Thank you.
Here you go. Can you hold it? Do you want me to hold it?
Excuse me?
You want me to hold it for you?
No, it's okay.
You sure? Okay.
Thank you for having a chance to speak to you tonight. I have, first of all, I'm Helen Norris, 2090 Northampton Street. And I've lived there for 50 years. And I've seen a lot of changes in those 50 years. Not all of them were for the better. This morning, I received an email from Jeff Burkhardt where he indicates that the city.
Sorry, excuse me. Make it easier for you. That way you don't have to. There you go.
The email from Jeff Burkhardt this morning indicates that the city did not conduct a parcel-by-parcel analysis of proposed changes from BL to BG. I received this admission after having made 3 requests for this basic information. And the Ordinance Committee really prepared to vote yes without an iota of parcel-specific analysis on future potential impacts covering nearly 170 parcels? Has the planning board really met its burden of proof to justify this change? Number 2, most often zone changes are accompanied by project proposals or anticipation of certain types of development. However, with regards to the blanket zone change from BL to BG, there are no specific requests from property owners and no specific proposals that have been made public. How do you expect abutters to evaluate the proposed change in zoning in the abstract? Or is it the case that the city council is providing property owners with an unrequested blank check in the form of expanded permissions for usage when it's time for a property owner to cash the check? It's too late. The neighbors raise concerns because the zone change has already been changed. Notices that are largely unintelligible were sent out proposing changes from BL to PG. How exactly does one make an informed comment, especially when non-conforming uses of BL zone parcels are in neighborhoods? It's simply from looking at the comparison of uses, intensity or dimensions, but completely out of content for the proposed project. I don't really understand how you can move forward without having this information. The abutters of these parcels need to understand what changes will come to their property and their property values if they allow it to go through as it's been proposed. So I think we need to take a deep breath and stop the process and educate more people to the proposed changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Hopkinson, and then we have one person online. What? Oh, absolutely. Yep. Anyone who wants to speak can speak.
What was her last name?
Hopkinson.
Hopkins.
Is the next. Is there a Catherine? She actually was the chair of the Oh, it was, you're right. Okay, well then we're gonna, online I see Grace Van Schoik, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Hi, yes, this is actually Catherine Gonzalez, but using Grace Van Schoik's Zoom profile. I live in Ward 3 on Granville Street. And I've lived and owned property here for 10 years. And I'm here to urge you to move for indefinite postponement of the 47 zone changes proposed. I echo Jess's statements and everyone's statements. I appreciate everyone's time tonight, and I urge you to move for indefinite postponement. Thank you.
Thank you. I also see Paola Ferrario.
Good evening, Councillor. Thank you for everybody who's speaking tonight. So the first thing I want to ask to the council, to this committee, as I heard you, please do not schedule the next hearing for the end of August. People are just coming back from vacation and they're getting their kids to start school. This is it feels in the sentiment of good faith, this feels like an administrative decision to get as little people as possible to the meeting. Schedule the next meeting for mid-September, where people are back and they're ready and they're a little less busy. So that would be a really good act of faith. The second thing I wanted to acknowledge is that, again, we can talk all we want about these changes, but we do not have a comprehensive plan ready. And what is very alarming is when I look at the draft of the comprehensive plan online, I really appreciate the fact that you hired experts, but actually when I look at the vision statement that says Holyoke is growing towards a clean and green future, leveraging its renewable energy and environmental beauty to offer economic opportunity, access to education, healthy, safety, joyful quality of life, and houses for all. Holyoke is assured of its future vibrant, inclusive, and modern. So we are, like many people said tonight, crime has been very high. We have had teachers for 300 days without a contract. Our sewer still goes in the Connecticut River. And you have proposed an optimistic plan that raises exponentially the density of inhabitants on a huge amount of neighborhood in the city. Please stop this nonsense and do get a comprehensive plan and do give the expert that have to make the plan some very solid data for where we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I also see online Joel, if you wouldn't mind stating your name for the record.
Joel Coburn, Ward 6. I'm echoing what everyone else has said. I'm urging you to please postpone this indefinitely. This wasn't done fairly. It wasn't done with consent. It wasn't done with purpose or intention. And this just is an appropriate process. And you're getting really important and honest feedback from the community, and I'm urging you to listen to it. This isn't a good plan. We don't even have a plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak? If you want to, you can go to the mic. Just state your name, please.
How do you raise it? Better than squatting. My name is Christine Futia. I don't know what ward I'm in. I vote at the middle school Kennedy.
And where? The middle school?
On Jarvis.
Okay, that would be Ward 6.
Ward 6. I'm in Ward 6. Thank you. I have lived in Holyoke for about 15 months. Very, very happy to be here. Deliberately chose to move to Holyoke. I am a former corporate executive. My specialty was project management and program management. Like everyone else, I received my first word of this initiative by way of a screed. We all know what it looked like. We don't have to repeat it. And at that moment, I knew that this effort needed to be put on hold immediately. This is not how you change zoning. I have lived in 10 states. I have owned homes in 3 states. One of the things we all know is that zoning changes are a huge hot button for property owners. Thus, in order to have a successful program of zoning changes that makes sense, the process must include extensive community engagement across all the spectrum of the community. Now, I'm a pretty engaged individual myself, and the fact that I heard about this first through that shameful letter is astounding to me. What I know about project management says this, that process matters. Stakeholders matter. If you don't undertake a process in the right way, even if its goals are fabulous, then you're not going to get the desired result, and you're going to end up with a lot of acrimony. And I have to say that I too feel confused and angry and distrustful. And I've only been here a short time. It seems to me that the only option we have today is to start over. Now, that doesn't mean you have to do everything from scratch. There's a whole slate of zoning changes, and a lot of work has been done. But as far as the overall process that involves public engagement, that has to start over. This process is not effective. How many hearings? The zoning board has, the planning board has hearings, and the council has hearings. And I have yet to get any concrete answers to some of my fundamental questions. One of which was, why are we doing this now? Why? Has anyone answered that? Have we gotten any answer? Is there money to be gained from this zoning change? Are we going to start bringing in some much needed money? Because I'd like to hear that if that's true. What are the quantified benefits? Why is now the time? Now, when I was in corporate life, hideous as it was, we always had a strategic plan, and we updated that strategic plan every 3 years in completion and made changes to it every year. All of our action plans were in light of that strategic plan. They fell out from the strategic plan. That is how you run an organization. It doesn't matter whether it's a government or a business. So at this point, let's say no harm, no foul. Let's not point fingers. Let's not blame people. Let's say that we need to start this again. And the right way to do that is to basically end this initiative by putting it on indefinite hold, and then start fresh when the time is right, and with the kind of process that will enable it to get done in a good way and make positive changes. I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Heather Ludden. I am from Ward 7. I'll just say, I echo what everyone said here. I'll probably keep it a little shorter than everyone else, but I'll just say I urge the council again to move forward with the indefinite postponement of the 47 proposed zone changes. If outreach was done in the fall, it was done without a comprehensive plan and should not be considered acceptable outreach. There are a lot of things that seem to be on fire here. And we keep learning about information in snippets. For instance, something that I just learned today from Councilor Panich about the zoning changes that may be to accept BESS facilities. What I can tell you is that there were massive efforts to avoid these facilities in nearby cities, for instance, in Westfield. As I understand it, the city council authored a letter against BESS going into Westfield. We already have a small BESS. My feeling is that these facilities are unsafe. There have been several widespread fires resulting from these facilities that create runaway fires affecting the air, water, and soil for decades. They're impossible to put out and are allowed to burn until they burn themselves out. I also urge the City Council to create an order for a moratorium of BESS facilities in Holyoke. That's pretty much all I have to say, except I do feel that the planning board should have meetings, and maybe I'm unaware, at regular intervals with a certain amount of meetings in person per month, or some acceptable regularity. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak? Yes. You know.
Hi there. My name is John McCann. I live at 415 Ingleside Street. I do have a problem neighbor, and my wife went through the details in the last meeting, so I'll skip all that. I'm sorry? Okay. So I do have a couple of questions. So this property was RA1, I believe, my abutting properties, and it was, the owners wanted to put a used car lot there and a commercial parking lot there, but that's right next door, and we're looking right out at it, and I'm sure I'm not the only one with these concerns, but so since they own the property, they just let it go downhill, and it's been a mess. So there's been a backhoe there for, I don't know, 5-6 years now. That's what we look at out our kitchen window. So anyway, so they had a RA1, and they wanted to put this business there, but we had a meeting here, and they obviously wouldn't let them do that with that kind of zoning. Now they have an RO. The following year they were permitted to have an RO, which that'd be fine with me too, having a business in their home. But now they want to change RO to BG, I believe. And I haven't really heard about this in the meeting here very much. So if they're just outright given the RO to BG, that assumes that they'll be able to have a commercial parking lot. And, I have a little pride in our property. It's the first property you see when you come up the hill on Route 5, and they're right next door. I mean, look pretty bad with the 15-foot sumac trees, but I think that would be better than, more backhoes and more, commercial parking lot. So I don't know, that's what we're gonna see when we come up Route 5. But anyway, I was wondering, and my neighbor 2 doors up also has a commercial-looking property, and I guess he's RO. And talking with him, he's okay. He's okay with, them changing it to BG. But in talking to him, I says, that's probably going to change your tax, double your taxes. And that's my question. That's one of my questions. Do these people understand, or, whoever's going to be affected by, because I haven't heard this from you guys, would that change? And it's obvious what, the plans, our neighbors' plans would do to my property value, because I have a small property and it's not RO. We have a special permit to have our business, which I appreciate, and I have appreciated for 27 years. But anyway, I concur with the other people who want to indefinitely postpone the proposed 47 zoning ordinance changes. And that's all I got to say. And I do have, would like a question about those, the taxes and carte blanche, changes. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public to speak? Otherwise, I'll turn it over to councilors who want to respond.
Yes, I would like to respond.
Councilor Penich.
Please, thank you. First of all, thank you for coming forward with those questions. My understanding is that your situation, sir, is one of the ones that the planning board is taking very seriously as they consider this. I don't know the answer to the tax question off the top of my head, but in general, the change would be if a business were established there. It is not simply because the zoning allows for a business that you would double the assessment on it, or have the shift in taxes that imposes a higher rate on businesses than on residential uses. That has to do with the use. But I think that you will find that you have less to worry about with that RO change than you are worrying about. But obviously, this is not a finished process yet. Do keep after us, but you won a zoning decision before, and your argument is still very strong that that kind of business should not be established next to you. So, I think that you at least are in pretty good shape here. As for the BESS question, we are very aware of the dangers of BESS installations. The planning board was tasked, along with HG&E, with coming up with some sort of zoning proposal for it some years ago. Because, of course, the counter-argument is that we need BESS installations. If we are ever going to move off fossil fuels, we need to be able to store and use that energy. And at the time, and now it is several years ago and the technology has changed, but we made a distinction between the kind of small battery storage unit that you might have if you had the funding in your garage to store solar from your rooftop, which seemed safe enough to be allowable generally, and large BESS installations. We are, I believe, in the process of revisiting those ordinances because the technology has changed and the concerns have changed. So, that is a work in progress. Keep an eye on it, by all means. And finally, the Elmwood Forest piece. This zoning proposal has absolutely nothing to do with that. In fact, it was The maps were inspected carefully to make sure that no changes were attached to any of those parcels. So, I do want to reiterate that I think this process itself is an effective postponement. And in a moment, with our chair's permission, I'm going to move to continue this hearing until September. But of all of the things to be concerned about with this zoning, and I realize it's a lot, and I certainly would hope that it would not move forward until every citizen has a chance to understand every bit of it and reject any parts that aren't working. But if a genie came down and snapped their fingers and all of these changes were enacted tomorrow, it would not affect the Elmwood Forest parcels. So I thank my chair for indulging me while I said that, and, that would be my motion.
I know we have a number of other hands first, if we wouldn't mind. We haven't joined, and I just wanted to name that it was some time ago. We were a public comment. I didn't want to name it, but we have been joined by Councilors Murphy-Ramboletti and Councilors Mason at online. I see your hand, Council President Murphy-Ramboletti. Do you want to speak at this point?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will try my best to be brief and respect everyone's time, and just thank everyone who has shown up tonight. Thank you for getting your petition together. It's really an important part of all of this, and I completely understand that zoning conversations in general can make people emotional. I personally love when people show up and talk to us. So I wish this was, I hope this continues to be like a regular thing in general and not just when people are feeling upset. I wanted to make just a couple comments because I've been listening very closely tonight. I do think, and I'm always going to say this, it is important to remember why zoning matters. It impacts housing, economic development, our neighborhoods, our infrastructure, small businesses. And this is, my understanding is this is why people elected us, is because you do want to see some of those changes. And to be fair, Holyoke has a history, I would say, especially in my own personal experience working in the Office of Planning and Economic Development, like it's definitely over 10 years ago now. Holyoke has a history of taking a reactive approach to zoning, which is not good governance. It's not how zoning should work. And so it is important that we have these conversations, but I just want people to know that we hear you. The points you made tonight, the last meeting, they are fair. I hope people can see by now that many of us also agree with you that we need to see a comprehensive plan that is fully finalized. It's my understanding that we are close to that point, but you're right. We should continue the conversation. I would be in favor of that. But I would argue respectfully that I think slowing down is different from refusing to engage in conversation at all. Because in my opinion, I just feel like we can't say that we care deeply about the future of our city, but also resist every discussion about how our city is going to have to evolve eventually. Like, we have to have these conversations at some point. And so if I can just be honest, I mean, tonight, the vibe that I got from a lot of the folks in the room is that these conversations, when they're being treated as like something is secretly being pushed through, it kind of, for me, it feels like it discourages on my end, like thoughtful public dialogue before it can even happen. And I just feel like that's important to say. A public hearing is not something that is signaling that like we have failed. I personally think it's like evidence that this process is working. We're listening to you. So I guess I'm saying all of that because I just hope that we can move forward, perhaps with a little more good faith. We can continue this to September's a great idea. That's great. Great suggestion. We have work to do. I hear you loud and clear. But I also want to recognize that there's 13 of us and there's about 38,000 people in our city. And so we can do better, but we as a city can do better. You know, I commit to being as active as I can. All of our counselors have full-time jobs. I'm not making excuses. I'm trying to get you guys to understand that, like, I want to work with you. I think we all want to work with you on this. So thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for your feedback. I hope that we can use the next few months to really get the word out to everyone and figure out a good plan moving forward. So thank you, Madam Chair, and to everyone who's in attendance this evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Do we have other council members who wish to speak at this time? Councilor Bacon?
Thank you. So I just want to summarize a little bit my takeaways from tonight. One of the main things I'm hearing is that with the changes that are deleting zones and adding zones, what the people in the neighborhoods can't see is what the abutters would change to if they don't know their zone. To the point that Helen made earlier, there's a zoned property that she happens to know. So she knows that if that zone changed, that potentially an unintended consequence could be that it could become some kind of motel, okay? So the problem is people can't look at the maps and see what the impact would be on them if these blanket zone changes are made. Mm-hmm. Now, I have never been a fan of these. We did it one time when Terry Murphy was the interim mayor. And my question at the time was, did you talk to every person who would be affected by that blanket zone change before we took the vote on it? And if he hadn't been able to say yes and they were good with it, then I wouldn't have voted for it. Because this is what you can't figure out by looking at this. So I just want to give an example. Now, I've been in this game for a while, and I've been on all these committees, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm looking at this whole packet of changes. I had to go through it once and see, okay, so in this zone, they're going to move the special permit from the city council to the planning board. But that wasn't the end of it. Then you have to keep reading further down. And then you find out later on, oh no, all the special permits are going to be thrown away, and these uses that are on the principal use list are going to be as of right. And so when I, as a city councilor, have to sit there and spend hours going through this, matching up all the pieces and parts of it to figure out what would the real implication be, as I'm trying to have a meeting on Monday in Ward 5 with my constituents, it's almost impossible for a resident to be able to sit there and figure it out. It's just incredibly complex, and the volume of it, and I mean, I'm retired, so I've got time. But I mean, I've spent hours on this already. A regular person getting that letter in the mail doesn't have a chance. And I am so thankful for Helen to come in and advocate in the way that she has, which is the way she did when she was a city councilor. And I consider her a good role model for me as a city councilor. So I just want to say we've got to find a way to make sure people can get more of this information, because you know what you are, but what you might not know is who next door to you is. And so I don't know how we solve that particular problem, but to me, the ward counselors need to be out in their wards, opening up the door, sitting there with this document, and coming back into this public hearing with the questions from our constituents. They can't all come down here. It's not realistic. But we can be out there for them. That's why we're here. And so, you know, I'll be starting the conversation on Monday out in my ward, but it's a lot. But thank you, everybody who's come in, and I'm trying to keep a running list of the changes that could be made to avoid some of the what I see as unintended consequences. I'm not saying anything is intentional or whatever, but I think there are a lot of consequences in here, perhaps often unintended. But thank you for coming in, and I've tried to take good notes on all your comments.
Counselor Telheimer and then Counselor Penich.
With permission through the chair to Councillor Vacan, I would love to hear your ideas and brainstorming about what kind of things you would like to see happen. I know you're having a meeting on Monday with your residents, including a number of topics, including Elmwood Forest and an update on that. So I'm very interested to see what you're presenting on that so we can check in after your meeting. I've been holding monthly office hours since January, and no constituents, no residents, no folks have come forward to those office hours to ask about zoning. It doesn't mean they don't have questions about it, but I would like to hear some brainstorming or some ideas that you might have. You said, I don't know what we could do. It seems like an opportunity to maybe brainstorm some of the things that we could do. Do you have ideas on that?
I didn't hear myself say I didn't know what to do.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have misheard you. I did hear something that indicated that you weren't sure about steps forward.
We're here, you guys can ask us our ideas.
Yeah, so what I was trying to say is that I was going to be meeting with people to share the information as I get it. And I expect that I'll get ideas back from the people at my meeting. That's how I run them. They're for the citizens.
Yeah.
They're not for me to preach, they're for me to share information and hear back. That's how they roll.
Excellent. I look forward to hearing how that goes.
Thank you. If I could just
I
interject
file a
for
report up
moment.
on my Facebook page after all my meetings.
Excellent.
It's right out there
Thank
for the
you.
public.
I wanted to name that the not having the comprehensive plan first is really hard in terms of where this process is starting. And the reason why I had initially suggested that we don't touch this again until August, September is fine with me too, is so that there is more time for the comprehensive plan to be completed and for there to be a rollout. There needs to be sharing with the public from the comprehensive plan. And whether that is coming from the planning department, whether that's coming from the planning board, out of Eric's office, OPED, I think it's really important that it's being shared with the community. So whether that means there's table sessions at the senior center, the public library, or in school cafeterias or libraries, I think it's going to be really important, and not just for you, for counselors. Because we're also hearing this at the same time that you're hearing it around, these are coming in response to the comprehensive plan. We're also asking for the comprehensive plan. And that's why I said earlier, I don't think there's a singular counselor that's saying, yeah, sure, let's move forward with zoning based on a document we haven't seen. There's no urgency on the part of this board to from my end, to move forward quickly with this. And in fact, I don't feel like we can in any way. But I am, by state law, required to hold a hearing within a certain number of days of when this was filed. That's why it happened, because it's required. And so it occurred. That first hearing was clearly going to take so much just to get through that first order that I realized we needed to continue it just to be able to have more conversations around the other aspects of it. But at this point, there's no way to move forward until the comprehensive plan is rolled out, until there's consensus around that comprehensive plan, and until we hear back from the planning board around the revisions here. I'll also say, to Ms. Norris's point about it drinking from a fire hose, the reason why I started earlier, and you all probably went, why is she still talking? Where I started to walk you through my process for how I would just go through a single order, to go through the table of uses, to go through the maps, to go through the dimension charts, to go back to the order, to go back to the maps. It's a lot. And because we have so many here, it's really hard to move forward with this. And it will take a long time. If the goal is to move all these things together at the same time, it's going to take a long time to get, I think, the Ordinance Committee and the council to a place where they feel like they understand the impacts of the choices in order to be able to vote on them. At least that's where I'm at. And I do think that zoning matters. I think that the reason why it's happening is because you look at zoning every time you do a new comprehensive plan. And I think because we only do a comprehensive plan every 25 years, there's no one in this room other than Ms. Norris who was part of that process then. It doesn't happen frequently enough for members on council or the public to stay fresh and aware of what the process is and how it works. And this stuff is dense. It's hard to understand. And so the planning board, I think, which works in this document more than anybody other than folks in OPED, understand it the most. Councilors also have a lot of work to do to understand these impacts before it can be voted on. Councilor Penich?
Thank you. First, I wanted to thank Councilor Bacon because those are great points about how you navigate this and how you figure out the impact on your neighbors. And I think actually there's material that the city makes available that we can work on between now and September, actually getting the public to be able to interact with. And it hadn't occurred to me until you said that. But working through it myself, I've been going back and forth from assessor's maps to city maps to, what is this frontage, to how many homes are going to come into compliance that were not in compliance before. And I think that between now and September, we can work on this so that it is easier for the public to see what is being proposed. And I also just wanted to say, I think to a certain extent we're all talking past each other, because I don't think there's anyone in this room who does not think that the process needs to be essentially on hold. One of the things about continuing an established public hearing, which we can do indefinitely, as opposed to asking the city council to terminate this and start over, is that if we were to do that, ultimately, all of the extreme expense of having noticed this one will have to be replicated. And I shuddered at the cost of doing this, but legal informed us that it had to be done as a matter of state law. I personally would rather just every so often the Ordinance Committee has to move to continue to a date certain until we are really done with this, than have to spend your money and ours, because we're all taxpayers here, redoing that notice. So a certain amount of the could we just continue this is coming from that consideration. It'll work the same way. So I think that that's all of what I intended to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Anderson Burgos.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So first of all, I want to thank everyone for coming.
Madam Chair, could you put my name on a list, please, so I can say something?
Absolutely. I'm sorry. Did I say you before and then I
Go ahead,
skipped
sorry,
you?
I thought I had asked you. Go ahead.
Did you
My
want to go
apologies.
first?
No, I'll wait.
Okay. So like I said, I want to thank you all for coming here, because it really does show me and it demonstrate how difficult this all is. And I want to assure you, as an elected official, you might not live in my ward, whether you do or you don't. I will not vote on anything until I get your consent. 100%. You are the people that put us in power. And that means nothing, right? That means nothing to some, but it means everything to me. So trust and believe I will not vote on anything that's going to do harm to the people of this community. Secondly, I also believe that if we are going to have these conversations and educate our community, we definitely need the planning board here, right? Because they've made all these decisions, and I'm not shaming them. I know they have work to do. But it took us, and I'm not alone. My colleagues here, we were all like, what's this? Right? Not, maybe we won't all admit it, but I will. I was in shock. I was like, oh, this is not good. And we're sorry, but we're gonna make this right. I need you to understand, this is coming from my heart. I will not vote for anything that's gonna do damage to any of you, okay? Thank you.
Councilor Devine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I found out about this the same way everybody else did. A friend of mine called me and said, Patty, what is this that I got in the mail today? And I had no idea whatsoever. And I want to thank everybody for coming down here, but I especially want to thank Helen Norris, because that can't be easy to come down here, okay? And Helen and I go way back, we've served together, and she's absolutely right. And what I don't, the planning board that you guys keep talking about, that would be the ones that only Zoom, that they don't actually meet in person. And what I want is if my experience is saying, whenever there was a zone change, it went to the city council, then I believe 300 feet of butters had to be notified, okay? When you do 47, how do you notify 300 feet of butters? So, and we did have to pay $8,000 to advertise in the Holyoke Sun. I'm gonna file an order that the planning board meet in person with the ordinance committee. I don't want to hear their excuses. I've heard they're afraid to come downtown Holyoke. They're afraid of their, this is what I heard. I'm just telling you, Ann, I'm telling you what I heard, okay? I'm sorry. They didn't like the elevator that they had to come down on, okay? These are things that I've heard. So I think we need to start from scratch, I really do. And I think we need to do one at a time like we normally would, and that we notify 300 feet of abutters. And I apologize again for my anger like the last time, but it makes no sense to me that 47 zone changes are done at the same time. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Councilor Tellheimer?
I do want to make note that the planning board has met in person during the past year. It is not exclusive only to Zoom. They have done in-person meetings. They have also, in my understanding, done joint meetings of the planning board and ordinance, but that practice was discontinued because of, if you go back and look through historically how those two bodies have functioned and how certain members of this body in the past have treated members in public hearings and during public comment, it was not a productive, forward-moving discussion. I do think we have moved past that with the different configuration of folks we have in council. I do think there is possibility for that discussion, and it is something that could potentially once again become possible, thinking about these things. But I also kind of want us to keep thinking about, we've been talking all night about working together and supporting the people and all of this. I think that courtesy needs to extend to the other departments as well, the planning board, the law department, other folks who have been involved in this process. Because again, if we're working on this jointly with all the folks involved, I think it's important to keep that in mind, because the folks on the planning board, they are also taxpayers. The folks on city council, we are also taxpayers. We are also people affected by this. We are also people in the neighborhoods. If we are all truly working for that common good, let's work together and treat each other like human beings and keep the goal in mind. That's mostly what I wanted to say on this one. Thank you.
Is there anyone that wants to weigh in before we continue the hearing? Yes, Ms. Norris. You don't have to, we can bring the mic to you. You don't have to move.
I just want to say that the passage of a package of zone changes, everyone being treated carte blanche, is not fair to the taxpayer. We elected officials to follow through with what we see as needing more study and understanding. And no one's thinking much here about the abutters of the zone change and what the value of their homes are going to be worth when they're changed from the BL to the BG. And that is a travesty. And further, when the zone changes are changed, there's so many things on the outside for the zone change itself. The value of one's home will be, when they go to sell it, could be much different than if it was left at BL. So I think that each parcel should be looked at separately and look at what the downfalls are for them, or the positives. There may be positives as well, but just to do it carte blanche is not it's not fair to the taxpayer. They should be part of it, in making decisions.
Thank you. At this time, I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing. State law requires us to name to a date certain, to a date and to a time. I'm going to propose September 10th at 6:30 p.m., which is a Thursday. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
You're not available on the 10th. Can we do the 17th? Is that better for you? Counselor Tallheimer says she's not available on the 10th. Does the 17th work? Counselor Tallheimer's not on the 10th.
I mean, you have quorum without me, but I will not be here.
No, you'd like to be here.
It's
It's a Thursday. Is the committee available on the 17th?
17th?
If we do the following Thursday?
I've never planned out that far in my life. I'm going to say yes.
Any holidays?
I don't believe so. Okay. So the motion is to continue the meeting to September 17th at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Can we put it first on the agenda for the public?
Okay. And then I'll make a motion to receive the communication from number 5. On my agenda. So many documents. This is the one that has the information from the planning department and the letter and the petition. Unless we want to table.
I'm sorry, I thought I read it into the record.
But item 5, do we want to table it? Or do we want to just receive it?
I thought we received it.
Okay.
And put it into the record.
So a motion to
Information that came from planning?
So a motion to receive and place into the record the information from item 5.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then motion to adjourn.
Is that posted?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What's posted?
So, did that information?
Your birthday today, like it was the last time. Thank you. I'll keep in touch. I'm not sure what.